We know that you were one of the participants in the High Desert Heart Institute study that had 35 initial participants. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in that study. In fact, maybe let's even go back a little bit and tell us a little bit about your health condition that led you to seek out the help of Dr. Cici and the High Desert Heart Institute.
Well, ever since I come up here, I've had heart problems, primarily starting out with atrial fibrillation, and then ultimately I required a pacemaker to be put in. What happened is in December, actually December 20th to be specific, of 2008, I had a renal failure, congestive heart failure, and pacemaker failure concurrently. And it necessitated my being sent to the hospital. Paramedics came, and I went into the hospital, and they ultimately decided they were going to have to do surgery, and it was supposed to be very dangerous because I'd been also, because of my atrial fibrillation, I'd been taking blood thinner, so taking and doing surgery at that time was going to be very dangerous. They told my wife to make that decision for me because I wasn't able to do it at the time. I was really out. And she did. She thought, after listening to everything, the best thing for me to do is go ahead and try the surgery, which they did. And that went successful. The surgery was fine. After I got out of the hospital, for the next 5 to 6 weeks, I was in the hospital about 2 to 3 days minimum every week as a result of congestive heart failure. It basically was the real primary reason, is that nothing was happening. I had been taking all the medications possible. I was medically managed to the maximum extent, and finally I gave up. Quite honestly, I'd had enough. I got weak. I was on oxygen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I couldn't walk 15 feet without stopping. I couldn't even open up a bottle of water. My wife used to have to open the bottles of water for me. I was very concerned also with medical costs, and I was concerned that I didn't know what these bills were going to be because I hadn't received them yet, but I didn't want to empty the well out, so to speak, and I didn't want any good money spent after bad, if you will. So I decided to take myself out of the hospital. I asked them to remove all the IVs, and they told me that if I went home I would die. And I said, just give me the papers I need, and I'll go home. Because if I'm going to die, that's where I want to be anyway. Coincidentally, that was on a Sunday, and I had a pre-scheduled appointment with the congestive heart failure clinic on Monday. And Dan Austin, who is the clinical director there, and Dr. Cici recommended that I go on a study of a product called ProArgi-9, which is a dietary supplement. Well, I was just a little bit set back that they'd been doing everything they could. I felt, you know, what are you going to do with a dietary supplement? And in all truthfulness, I didn't really think it was going to work, but they also told me they were going to do a tremendous amount of testing. Well, the testing really hit me because they said it was going to be free, and so I could see that the medical bills were not going to be rising, and so consequently I went ahead and said, let's do it, because I was more interested in seeing what was going to be happening to me, whether I had a week to live or 7 days or 2 days. I was expecting things to go down, and I wanted to have access to all of that information. So I did what they said, and I went on to ProArgi-9, and there were 35 people total. And in a few short weeks, I began to actually feel better. I wasn't sure at that time whether I was feeling better or I was thinking I was feeling better. But actually I was feeling better. By the end of 3 months, I felt really pretty good. By the end of the 3rd month, I was doing things that I hadn't been able to do for years. My wife is the one who told me that she believed that I had more energy than I ever had in my life. And I really thought that maybe she should go on ProArgi-9 too, because I think she forgot our honeymoon because I knew I had more energy then. And here I am ready to go on a second honeymoon because of the ProArgi-9.
What advice would you have for others in your situation who may have physicians or caregivers that are telling them that really there's no hope or there's nothing they can do? I mean, that they aren't aware of the Nobel Prize research. They're not aware of things like this High Desert Institute. What would you say to, say, a corporate friend or somebody that you've known throughout the country who says, oh, I need to talk to my cardiologist, and he says that he doesn't think there's anything that can help me? What would be your advice to someone like that at this point in their life?
Well, actually that has happened many times as I've gone to tell a lot of people about it. There's many people who have come to me and asked me how I got well because they knew I was ready to die. In fact, I have several friends who never even came to see me anymore because they didn't want to see me get worse. One of my dear friends, John Snyder, is one who saw me from day one and continued to see me, but he, as much as I know that we like each other, he didn't want to come to see me anymore because it was just too hard for him to see me going down. So basically what I've told people is that, hey, this worked for me. I've read everything, I've researched it. They know me. I do an extensive research on everything that I do. And a lot of them trusted my judgment. And once they trusted my judgment to get on it, they went on it, they found out from themselves, and they were telling other people about it and coming back to me. So there hasn't been anybody who hasn't taken it that hasn't felt well. The only advice I really have, to get back to your question, is I'd try it. I think that if you have nothing else, but if you're in bad shape, try it because you don't have anything to lose. If you're in good shape, try it, because I have a grandson who is training to be a Navy SEAL. And he saw what I was taking, and he said he wanted to take it. And I said, you don't need this stuff. You're as physically fit as you can be. And he says, Grandpa, I want to take it. He says, it made you well. He says, it may give me more energy. He took it, and after a week, he called me, and he said, he's never had so much energy. He can run further, he can run faster, he can swim further, he can swim faster, and he can do more pull-ups and push-ups than he could before. And that's in 1 week. So he's got all his friends taking it as well. So all I can say is try it.